The Master and Margarita, one of my absolute favourites, and soon to be one of yours perhaps as well, rightly called one of the greatest novels of all time. Written during Stalin's reign in the Soviet Union and only published decades after Bulgakov's death, the novel defies genre, time, and ideology. It's part political satire, part religious allegory, part romance, part philosophical treatise, and part black comedy, with a dash of supernatural chaos. Let's dig deeper into the story and its themes and explain to you why you should go and read it too. At its core, it's a novel about truth and imagination surviving under tyranny, and it delivers that message with such style and wit and defiance that it deserves its own category. More than just a great Russian novel, The Master and Margarita might be the great Russian novel. The plot itself jumps between three interconnected storylines. The first thread tells of the strange devilish foreigner named Woland, who is basically Satan, and he arrives in Soviet Moscow with a bizarre entourage, including a talking, pistol-wielding black cat named Behemoth, and proceeds to sow chaos among the city's corrupt literary elite. The second thread is the retelling of the trial of Jesus of Nazareth, as seen through the eyes of Pontius Pilate. Then there is the third thread as well, which is the love story between the Master, a writer crushed by Soviet censorship, and Margarita, his devoted muse, who makes a pact with the devil to be reunited with him. Midnight was approaching. They had to hurry. Margarita dimly perceived her surroundings. Candles and a jeweled pool remained in her memory. As she stood in the bottom of this pool, Hella, with the assistance of Natasha, doused her with some hot, thick and red liquid. Margarita felt a salty taste on her lips and realized that she was being washed in blood. The bloody mantle was changed for another, thick, transparent, pinkish, and Margarita's head began to spin from rose oil. Then Margarita was laid on a crystal couch and rubbed with some big green leaves until she shone. Here the cat burst in and started to help. He squatted down at Margarita's feet and began rubbing up her soles with the air of someone shining shoes in the street. Margarita does not remember who stitched slippers for her from pale rose petals, or how these slippers got fastened by themselves with golden clasps. Some force snatched Margarita up and put her before a mirror, and a royal diamond crown gleamed in her hair. Koroviev appeared from somewhere and hung a heavy, oval-framed picture of a black poodle by a heavy chain on Margarita's breast. It's madness and magic, and it shouldn't work, but it does. Beautifully, madly, miraculously. The novel moves between humour and horror, despair and ecstasy, the mundane and the divine, as if there's no boundary between them all. And in Bulgakov's world, there isn't any. The book has become synonymous, of course, with a famous phrase, which is manuscripts don't burn. It is one of the most famous lines in the novel and now in all of literature, and it is uttered by Woland himself. The impactful and significant phrase, manuscripts don't burn. The phrase is both literal and symbolic. In the story, the Master has burned his novel, which is his retelling of Christ and Pilate, thinking it would be destroyed anyway. But Woland, with infernal amusement, reveals he has it, untouched by fire. This mirrors real life, as Bulgakov himself had burned an early draft of The Master and Margarita in a fit of despair, believing that he would never be allowed to publish it anyway. Yet he returned to it and continued to write it in secret. The book was never, sadly, published in his lifetime, but it did survive, and now the line has become a symbol of the indestructibility of truth, imagination and art under totalitarian rule. In a world where writers were imprisoned, silenced, and even executed, Manuscripts Don't Burn is a cry of defiance and faith. It is the heartbeat of the entire novel. Now, I'm a big fan of Russian literature, and there are some mighty giants in that genre. Tolstoy, Dostoevsky, Chekhov, Nabokov, where War and Peace is massive in scale and the brothers Karamazov is morally weighty. The Master and Margarita is anarchic, surreal, playful, and just as profound. It mocks Soviet bureaucracy, exposes the cowardice of intellectuals, confronts the problem of evil and dares to redeem even the devil himself. I think most impressively is that it manages to hold two opposing ideas at once. One, that the world is cruel, absurd, and full of injustice. And two, that there is love and art and truth, and they all matter anyway. Few novels are this radical, this funny, this terrifying, and this tender all at the same time. In addition to being beautifully written, there are some wonderfully rendered characters that really stick to the soul. First of is Roland, the devil, but not in the traditional Christian sense. He doesn't tempt so much as expose. He reveals hypocrisy, punishes cruelty, and rewards loyalty. He is darkness, but also strangely just. Then there is the Master, a man destroyed by censorship, crushed by a society that fears originality and truth. He is almost like Bulgakov's double, and his tragedy is deeply personal. Then there is Margarita, perhaps the most compelling character in Russian literature. She is brave, wild, and willing to sell her soul, not for power, but for love. Her flight through the night sky, naked and transformed into a witch, is one of the most iconic and fascinating scenes in all of literature. Then there is Pontius Pilate, who I really loved as a character in the story. He is the novel's spiritual core. Pilate is portrayed not as a villain, but as a man of immense internal conflict, a coward haunted by the truth he fails to defend. The book is strange, beautiful, and utterly unique. Some of the greatest charms lie in its bizarre, dreamlike imagery. Right from the beginning of the story, you'll get a sense for how strange this book is going to be. In the story, there's a magic show where bribes will fall from the ceiling. There is a satanic ball with guests from all of history's crimes. And this fellow on the front cover, this black cat, he is a cat that drinks vodka and reads the newspaper. Now, despite its magical chaos, it's also grounded in emotional truth. The love between the Master and Margarita is sincere, the agony of Pilate is real, and the cynicism of the bureaucrats is familiar. It may be surreal, but it still cuts deep. The novel ends not with punishment, but with mercy. The Master and Margarita are granted peace. Not heaven, but a quiet afterlife together. Not salvation, but rest. It is a subtle, moving conclusion. Good is not triumphant in a grand way, but love is honored. Truth survives, and evil perhaps has a place in the order of things, because without it, how would we know what goodness is? The Master and Margarita is not just a novel, it's like a spell. It's a satire, a sermon, a love letter to art, a condemnation of tyranny, a whispered secret passed through generations. It is everything Russian literature strives to be: profound, poetic, political, and fearless, wrapped in a whirlwind of magic and madness. And above all, it is proof that manuscripts don't burn. There is no novel like it, and there will never be a novel like it again. The Master and Margarita